Welcome to Sex on the Floor podcast. This podcast was created to help educate the public about problems with sex and intimacy and how this is tied to both physical and mental aspects. Hosted by myself, Dr. Molly Hart, a passionate pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of Pelvic Balance Physical Therapy, and by Dr. Katie Schubert, a phenomenal sex therapist and owner of Cypress Wellness Center. We are here to have a good time. We're here to keep it real with you all and to educate along the way. I'm so excited for you to join us. We strive to help many relationships prosper in fun, safe, and healthy intimacy. While listening to the show, please remember that this information is not meant to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Please speak with your medical provider for all things related to your healthcare. Hello, all. Welcome to Sex on the Floor podcast. Again, you have Dr. Katie Schubert here and myself, Dr. Molly Hart. And we have a fun episode for you today to kind of piggy bank off of a little bit off of what we were talking about last time with the shoulds. So Dr. Katie's going to take it from here.
So one of the things we talked about in the last episode are the shoulds around sex. So we were going to talk today about anxiety and sex and what happens when you begin to feel anxious about sex, because it's a really hard thing to unpair once you begin to feel anxious about sex. It's one of the things I also see the most commonly in my office with couples who've been together for a while, or I should say couples who are dating, people who are dating. It looks a little bit different. So we're going to go into that today. And we're also going to split it up between how women might experience it, anxiety, as it relates to sex, and how men might experience anxiety as it relates to sex. So I think we should start with women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, real quick too, like, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, at least in my perspective, women who have been married for a long time, women who are just recently married, and then women who are not married yet, and it's just a couple. I also feel like the anxiety can play out a little bit different in those two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to kind of even break it down a little bit further in that sense too?
Yeah, well, I think that if we break it down, it'll be women who are dating around and just having sex casually, and then women who are in a more long-term relationship.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So let's start with the long-term relationship. So what I see a lot in my office, because I work with long-term relationships typically, are women who begin to feel anxious about sex for various reasons. It could be that she's had babies and her body doesn't feel normal, or she had some sort of like birth injury. And the anxiety is related to her physiology, and not wanting to be touched because it hurts. Or it could be, my partner always pressures me to have sex and it's no longer fun. I just have sex with them because it's expected. It's no longer for my enjoyment. But once that connection is made, once she begins to think about sex, then immediately the anxiety feeling follows. It becomes really, really, really hard to unpair it.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think, it's less intense for women, but if a woman is experiencing anxiety having sex casually, it seems like it's a lot easier to resolve that because there's not so much baggage. There's not so much anxiety or
not expectation per se, right? Like I'm not expected to I have no partner that I have to please. I can just walk away from the relationship, or I don't have to date at all.
Right. I don't have to have sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a committed relationship where you've made that agreement to have sex, oftentimes women feel like they are failing as a partner if they don't want to have sex, or if they say no to sex if their partner wants it, right? It's one of the shoulds. I should be having sex more often with my partner. I should be making them more happy. I should be engaging in this category of my relationship with more umph, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of guilt and like I would even say I want you to clarify too. Let's go into this a little bit. Is like what are the exact anxious thoughts that you hear a lot? And then also let's even call it it's not just anxiety, it's also shame, it's guilt. There's multiple feelings that can tie in together. But give some examples of what you hear women say in your office.
um, a, a lot of the shoulds, right? Like I should be having sex more often. I should want to have sex more often. Um, I feel like I'm like not doing my duty as a partner.
Mhm.
Um,
I hear a lot of negative talk of there's something wrong, like my libido's died. Um, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why. Like I don't want to do it anymore. There's something going on with me. So there's a lot of this feeling like their body is broken.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it could be psychological and it could be physiological, right? Like I get a lot of new moms who are like, that's just the last thing on my mind. I'm like, of course
Yeah.
it is. Of course it is. You have a new baby and your body is maxed out with its caring and with its being touched. Or it could be more psychological, like they just, they're overwhelmed with other things in their life, or their relationship isn't where they want it to be, or they're fighting in really shitty ways, and
Hmm.
they don't want to, right? If you think about like your order of needs, we
Maslow's
all
needs, yeah.
yeah, in Psych 101 in school. Sex is kind of at the top. It's the thing that you focus on when all of your other needs are mostly met. And this is particularly true in long-term relationships. You
Yeah.
have to feel safe and secure, and you have to feel safe being vulnerable with your partner to want to have sex with them. So if you're fighting in shitty ways and you don't feel safe around them, you're not going to want to have sex.
Yeah. And also just from a biological standpoint, because a lot of times we say our body's broken, we view our body and the feelings and both the feelings we're having as far as what we'll label as psychological feelings and the feelings we're having as a physical feeling. I clump it. To me, it's all the same. But um, our body is doing that to talk to us, and we get mad at our body when it's telling us these things. But those are messages, and they're beautiful messages, and they mean something. And so, from a biological standpoint, how awesome is it that the body doesn't want to have sex when things aren't going well? When my basic needs of safety aren't going well, I don't want to have sex because also biologically we shouldn't be procreating in those time frames. So it's also, your body is super smart in the way that it navigates. And instead of viewing it as broken, um, my biggest thing is trying to get us to understand, no, it's perfect and it's talking to you and you've been trained to ignore it. That's what's happening. So how do we address all the other things that are going on that are making you feel this way? But just because we address all that doesn't mean anxiety goes away. So that's a big thing that we're going to talk about today. One thing I wanted to add in for anxiety too, for me as a pelvic floor PT, is obviously I treat women who have pain with intercourse, but another thing that I treat a lot of is endometriosis. And so when women are either on their period or ovulating, their body feels, maybe they're not even having pain with sex, but their body is just in so much cramps and discomfort, and that takes up so much bandwidth. And then another thing I see a lot of is chronic UTIs. And so we'll see this with overactive bladder. We'll see this with something called painful bladder syndrome or interstitial cystitis, but frequent UTIs if they increase in intercourse, if they have a new partner. And so there's so much anxiety around sex because every time they have sex, they get a freaking UTI, which can lead to all this pelvic pain. And so there's a lot of reasons why women specifically can have anxiety around sex.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of like the treatment of it, whether or not it's physiological or psychological, the beginning part of the treatment is kind of the same. You want to work on the unpairing of the anxious feelings and any kind of physical contact. So what I often have my couples start out with is like touches that always feel safe, right? So and we all have these touches. You just need to think about it. So for me, my husband can always rub my head, right? Like that's always a welcome touch. It always feels good. And it always feels safe, right? Like I've never had a head rub that felt icky.
Oh,
So so what I tell my couples is like find your safe touch and then engage with those safe touches more often because it will reassure your body that the touch from your partner is safe and it feels good.
yeah. Love that. And knowing what is your safe touch
Yes.
and what is
Yeah.
not, and figuring that out and communicating that, that takes awareness, catching it. Like, oh, every time my husband touches me here, it annoys the crap out of me. Oh, okay. Like, why don't I communicate that in a loving way of like, hey, I don't really like when you touch me in this way. Like every time I walk by and you slap my ass, I really don't like that. It makes me feel devalued. It makes me feel uncared for. But when we're laying in bed at nighttime and I'm tired and I'm stressed and you start scratching and rubbing my back, I really do love that. So like figuring out your own self, pay attention. What do you, how's your body responding with certain things?
Right.
You might not even be paying attention to that as
Mhm.
detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
And
good
it's
example.
it's intimate touch, right? So like we want to increase the amount of intimate touch that's happening between you and your partner in a safe, like controlled environment. And then once we do that, we can start building up other things. Like we can start tackling like why it's happening, why you don't feel safe, why you feel annoyed, why you feel like your body's broken, all the whys. But we want to begin that journey with more safe touch so that we can kind of undo that pairing in your brain.
Yeah, 100%. And it is an unpairing. So if we get a little bit into the science, is your brain is a storage organ. It's storing everything. It's never not going to store the information. And there are connection points, if you want to think about it, to certain patterns. And those connection points can be really strong or they can be really weak. And so as a therapist, like what Katie's doing and what I'm doing, we're trying to make that connection weaker, the anxiety around sex with your partner. We're trying to make that connection not so strong. We're not going to get rid of it. Like it's there. And we're trying to build a new connection that's not been there maybe ever or has been there, but we got to refocus on that. And we're trying to make that be a fun, safe, pleasurable connection point to intimacy with your partner. But you have to make the one weaker, and we got to build up either a new one or re-strengthen the old one there. And that's a lot of work. That is not quick. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And you can think about it, you can think about it the same way you would any other reaction. Like I remember I got a really bad food poisoning off of sushi one time and I could not sushi is my favorite food
Yeah,
by far, hands down.
same.
And I could eat sushi for like a year. But I gradually started reintroducing it and I had positive experience afterwards, right? That was really good. I didn't throw up. And then, after a few years, I was back at it. But, we form these associations with everything. If we start pairing any emotion or any experience with a stimuli, those two things are going to be bonded until we work on unbonding them.
Yep. So like for women who come to see me, hopefully they're coming to see me and there is a physical thing that's going on and it's not just psychological. Very rarely does that happen. And if it does, I just send them to your practice. Because I'm not going to be the best person for that. But first, we are getting rid of the pain. So with women who have pain with intercourse, women who are getting chronic infections, my endometriosis type symptom females that come in is we are doing a lot of hands-on work and we're calming that down. I have one patient right now who's had pain with intercourse and horrible endometriosis pains all the time. And now it's barely on her mind, barely ever has any cramps. And she also just had successful intercourse with her husband for the first time ever, ever, ever. Which women are like shocked when that happens because they've never experienced that before. So again, like that's a brand new connection. And so first we have to calm the pain and then you have to learn to trust your body. And if you've been inside of a body that you can't trust for a very long time, that is a wild experience to go through. And that is not quick. I have found that takes a very long time of multiple exposures of positive interactions with your body that go well. And I would say a good almost like 6 months of positivity without a flare up before there starts to be this feeling of letting the guard down and truly trusting. So in that time frame, something that I have adapted as a practice, I don't know that, I this is the best practice, but this is what I've done, is I'm very particular on asking my clients when they are intimate with their partners is being very hyper focused on the environment. So the bed needs to be clean, the lights need to be dim. Music, I say, please make a playlist for whatever you like in the background. Candles, incense, or something that smells good, whether that's like your husband's wearing cologne or you're wearing perfume. I don't care. Do you like them to be clean? Do you guys need to take a shower? But all these very intentional, mindful things. And I'm like, just so they do that for the very first time we reintroduce sex again. But then I'm like, do you feel up to doing that? For months now, which is annoying. And I said, I know that, but we are trying to strengthen this connection. And if we don't take the intentionality behind all this and all these other subconscious sensory parts that are going to make you feel so calm, if they're not there, we're not going to strengthen this as much as quickly. So this is imperative. And I found it works well. It's annoying, I would say, but it's also annoying to, not want to have sex with your partner.
Yeah. I think
So,
what you're targeting there sounds like you're trying to reduce overstimulation,
yeah,
sensory overstimulation, and you're trying to enhance the senses associated with pleasure and with
yeah.
sex.
Pleasure and safety. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're reducing the outside noise and enhancing the noise that will help with pleasure and safety.
Yeah. But every time I'm like, please don't have intercourse. If that's not the case, because it takes one time of you guys decide to have sex when your kid's out in the other room and all the lights are on, the bed's messy and it's not made. And there's just all this other stuff going on, and you guys have sex. Maybe it's even 2 months in, and it's not pleasurable. Like we just halted so much progress. It's like I just ate 5 things of sushi that went really well, but I just ate the sixth one and it kind of was a little fishy, and now I have diarrhea. That's now I'm not going to want to eat sushi again.
Right. Yeah.
But
No,
if I
that's a
ate sushi 20, 50 times, all positive, oh, whatever. Sushi's fine. Even then, if I have 50 positive experiences with sushi and then I have one bad one, it's not gonna affect me in the same way. So that's
Mhm.
where my mind goes with that stuff. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think okay, so that's a pretty good like synopsis of women and anxiety. I want to talk a little bit more about men because it's a little bit more complicated.
yeah,
Because when men experience anxiety around sex, oftentimes their penises won't work, right? Like
yeah,
they'll have erectile issues or they'll have premature ejaculation. They'll have something going on that bothers them a lot, and then that feeds more anxiety, and then it gets into this like really crazy spiral where they feel like they're never gonna get out of that anxiety spiral as it relates to sex.
yeah. Men, I would say it's different, but just the fact that there's a physiological response to the penis that's tied to it plays a whole nother factor in it. And it's sad because they really get in their heads about the penis. And it's both erection, it's premature. I've even seen it to where they can't ejaculate, where they're so in their head they can't have an orgasm. So there's all sorts of fluctuations with how that affects their physical performance. But men care a lot about that because society cares a lot about that.
Mhm. Right. And if men have a lot of the men that I see, if they have one bad experience, especially if they're like dating, if they're not in a long-term committed relationship, it's all over. Like they're just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. Or what's wrong with me? Or I'm now never going to be able to have the kind of sex that I want to have. Um, but I think something that a lot of men don't realize is that is so normal,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know of any man that hasn't had erectile issues because of anxiety or ejaculation issues because of anxiety.
Yep.
Like your penis is so tied to your brain that if you're in your head about anything, you're gonna notice it.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So whether it's I can't have an erection or my erection's not as strong or as firm as I'm used to, or overthinking, I like trying to not come too soon. Both of them, all of it, but it's in their head of overthinking. And I will have men come into my clinic and talk to me about this, and they are so afraid to start dating again, or they're so afraid for the next meetup. And then when they come in, I always give them the one episode we did, which was like the mindful masturbation and trying to get out of your head, get into your body. And once they have like one successful time where like, oh my gosh, it worked, that starts the process again of breaking that pathway of anxiety. But it takes multiple times of it going well before they trust their body again, before they trust the penis again.
Yeah. Um, the kid interruptions, another source of anxiety, right?
Oh, kid in her. I have one couple right now where their kids are gone on a certain day, and that I'm like, okay, well then only have sex then. And they're like,
Yeah.
really? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because if you can't have sex without anxiety of your kids being around, except for then like that's when you guys have sex.
My she got the like the anxiety doll from Inside Out.
Well, I don't know about that.
Inside
I know
have you
about
seen
Inside Out, but I didn't know they had dolls.
that? So she has like a little a little doll and her name's Anxiety, right? So she's like, "Where's my anxiety? Do you have my anxiety?" Like
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I can get all the emotions. Which emotion are you feeling? Sad.
yeah. Okay, so yes. So for men, they need a lot of positive experiences to maintain whatever they got going, right? If they have a bad experience, it's often all over for them, or at least in that sexual encounter. But for a while there, it was really interesting, Molly, because for a while there in my office, I was getting so many men in their 20s coming in and saying, I have erectile dysfunction.
Hmm.
Like, oh goodness, you do not have erectile dysfunction. You have a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
But these men were saying like they weren't able to have like a fulfilling sexual experience with somebody because they would lose their erection as soon as the penis was about to go into the vagina, right? They all happen to be
Hmm.
heterosexual men.
Wait,
But
did they talk about condom use, not using a condom or with a condom on, because that can affect the penis too.
it didn't
No.
matter. It
Okay.
didn't matter.
Just
It
penis into the vagina. That's like when the anxiety hit bad.
Yep, because their immediate thought was like, "Oh my God, I hope I don't fail. Oh my God, I hope that I'm large enough," right? We have like this weird porn
Mm.
culture in the United States now where every man feels like their penis needs to look a certain way to be pleasurable. Um, so there were so many thoughts going on in these 20-year-old males' brains that caused them to lose their erection as soon as they felt like they might be judged for their performance.
Okay. Darn.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, the good part in that is that like it's you can cure it. Like it's not
Yeah.
a physical issue. There's nothing wrong with your penis or with your, circulation. It's all psychological.
Yeah. Do you think you're getting more younger guys coming with that because, the younger generation is more open to going to therapy and talking about these things? Or do you think it's because porn has become so rampant that it's creating more anxiety in younger guys in their performance? Or maybe,
Um, I I don't none of those guys wanted to come see me. Like
oh,
I was the last resort. I was like the panic button in these
what
situations.
what made them actually come and see you, do you think?
They couldn't have fulfilling sex.
Okay. Like they had multiple, multiple, multiple. I mean, I would say all the men that come to see me, nobody wants to come see me. Like they have had a history of stuff going on before they finally come to a pelvic floor PT. Interestingly enough, it used to always be off of Reddit feeds that would get them to pelvic floor PT because they always see urology. Um, Typically, they've had multiple urologists, multiple antibiotics, different things that are causing stuff for pelvic pain. Now, ChatGPT and AI is they're inputting their symptoms into there, and it's what's telling them, hey, you have pelvic floor dysfunction, you need to see a pelvic floor PT, and it's referring them to pelvic floor PCs. And I was like,
I
that's amazing. Like,
yeah,
so cool. I've had my last two male patients, that's how they found me was from ChatGPT. I was like,
that's incredible. I'm so
I
happy.
know. I
So
know.
happy. Um, yeah, I mean, I think also it is porn culture, right? Like porn
Yeah,
is really people's heads in
I
terms of
know.
what is expected anatomy wise, and then also what's expected with sex. And a lot of people feel like if they fall short of that, men and women both feel like if they fall short of what they're seeing in these interactions on pornography, that they're failing, right? It's another should. I should be that sexual. I should have a penis that large. I should have multiple orgasms. I should be able to orgasm. Like there are all of these shoulds around sex that people are picking up off of like fictitious
Yeah.
pornography. Um, and yeah, it's definitely increasing anxiety. Any should increases anxiety. And then
Yeah.
the shoulds around sex specifically increase anxiety because there's so much shame around sex already in our society that when you tack on anxiety to sexuality, like all of these icky feelings come from it, including
Yeah.
shame. And shame, you don't talk about things.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's weirdly where I like love talking about it. Because I'm like, let's talk about the two worst things that people don't want to talk about and let's make you feel comfortable about talking about it. Because it starts there is like, let's just have an open conversation because we all do it. We all have these body parts. Like we're all partaking in this, but yet we can't talk about it. It's beyond sad to me. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is. I think it not only does harm to us psychologically, but it also does harm to us because when you can't openly talk about something, it's really hard to improve it. Like, how do I, if I have knee pain and I can't talk about my knee and I have to hide it, I mean, how am I ever going to get my knee better? But that's not the case because if I have knee pain, I can tell everybody about my knee pain. I can hobble around. I can show people I have problems. You don't do that when it comes to sex. It's all hidden. Even like a married couple, they're having issues with their sex life. They don't want people to know. Like, we're just gonna, this is our problem. Like, don't anybody talk about it. So
Well, the one of the nation's leading researchers on shame is Brene Brown. I think
oh,
most
I love her. Yeah.
people know her name now, but she says, shame lives in darkness. It lives in like the dark recesses of your brain. So if you want to expunge shame from your brain, you got to talk about it. You got to bring the light to it. You can talk to a therapist about it. You can talk to a PT person about it. PT person. You're a PT person.
I like it. I think that's nice.
Um, if you talk about it, your shame will start decreasing around it, and you'll be better able to tackle it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's important too when you start talking about it, you talk to it about somebody who is going to listen and going to make you feel validated and comfortable. Because you could also start talking about it to your partner and they could make you feel bad and shut you down. That's not going to be healthy. So finding the right person to be able to have those conversations with is key. I
yeah,
mean, beyond important. That's where a sex therapist comes in. That is where pelvic floor physical therapists are going to come in as far as the physical realm of concerns. And then, honestly, I know we talked about this before, is like now we also have these AI bots that you can sit there and talk to that will validate you and talk you through it, that you don't have to maintain that relationship and you don't have to worry about it shaming you. I mean, it's a robot. So at least you have somebody just talk about it. Before we would say journal, I feel like chat GPTing, it's like a new verb. Chat GPTing is like a new form of journaling, but you're getting this response back. It's kind of nice. So yeah, if you're dealing with anxiety and shame, first step is just talk about it.
yeah. I know that you wanted to talk about mindful masturbation a little bit, and it ties in really nicely here because that is also like a really fantastic treatment option for
Yes.
anxiety and sex. Because if you think about anxiety and sex, what's happening is that you might be initially experiencing sexual pleasure, and then something shifts and you get in your head because anxiety lives in your head. So the thing about mindful masturbation or even mindful sexual interactions is that the only way that you can be mindful about masturbation or mindful about sex is by being present in
Mhm.
those situations.
Your mind is present. Yeah.
So you're focusing on the sensations, right? You're focusing on your partner's smell, your partner's taste, the feelings that are happening, the physical sensations that are happening. And if you're doing all of that, there's not going to be any time or space for you to be having anxious thoughts.
Yeah. I remember I just had a patient. This was maybe 6 months ago. He was re-getting back into intimacy. He was having a lot of casual dating. And so we talked about ways. to get out of the head. And I was just going over ways, how do we stay present? And I said, because, he's sleeping with different women. So I said, okay, well, cool thing about this is let's focus on the different parts of her, specifically that person you're with in that moment. So what do her breasts look like? There's so many different shapes of breasts. What do her nipples look like? What color are they? What does her butt look like? How thick are her legs? Are they muscular? Are they petite? Are they thin? And I was like, try to find things that you are attracted to, obviously, like something that you're turned on by. How soft is her skin? What color is it? And like really focusing on that. What does she smell like whatever you're doing, like smell her. What is that experience like? What type of hair does she have? What does it feel like? Is it soft? What color is it? Is it long? Does she like if you touch it? Does she like if you pull on it a little bit, if you stroke it? And I was like, get out of your head and start hyper focusing on the way that she looks, smells, feels, all those senses. And I was like, and just see what happens with that experience. The next time he came in, he's like, oh my gosh, I did that. And he's like, and it worked so well. And he went on and on. He's like, I didn't have any problems. He's like, I used a condom and everything. His big thing too is like once he put a condom on, he would lose his erection. But it went well and he had so much fun. He's like, that was really, actually really fun to interact that way. So instead of just being in your head, freaking out about your performance, like stop being so self-focused when you're with this other person and focus on them and focus on what's exciting about them and the different nuances of them and the different senses that you're experiencing with that person.
If it feels too overwhelming to be mindful during masturbation or during partnered sex, what you can start out with is some sort of mindful meditation. So, like a body scan meditation or a progressive muscle relaxation, anything that will get you into your body and out of your head. So, you have that practice. And once you have that practice individually with something that, there's no pressure on it, right? You're just laying there doing a meditation, then you can start incorporating other behaviors into that.
Yeah, I like that. Something I will say about, I love that you just brought that up. Um, Me personally, like I don't love doing mindfulness by myself with just breath work. I get kind of bored with it, but I'm a very sensory seeking person. So something I love doing to get mindful is I like rubbing myself. Like I'll like rub my arms, I'll scratch and I'll go down my legs because I like to rock and just really feel my body on whatever chair I'm on. I love laying in hammocks. I have hammock chairs all over I have hammocks everywhere, like different types. But get if you're somebody who like wants to move and be mindful, do that. Feel different sensations. I love doing mindful eating because I love eating. So that's another thing that I practice is I sit by myself. I like hide. I will go up in my room and hide. I'm like, I'm gonna go do my mindful eating. And I just hyper focus on the different textures. I take little small bites. You did this, Katie. You sent this reel of food. Remember like little, what is it, an ADHD plate of food or whatever? Oh my
No,
gosh.
I have to give credit though. It's the Tiffany plates. It's a girl on Instagram that does her Tiffany something. She does these Tiffany plates, and they're fantastic because
Oh my gosh, I'm
I
obsessed. I've been doing
I
them.
know. I know. You have to look her up on Instagram, but
Already did.
you
Her
did.
videos are hilarious because she doesn't give a crap.
She
She's
doesn't.
just
She
like sitting there just chawing away, and I loved every bit of it. And I was like, I want to make. So, anyways, just for you all listening, it's a plate of food with like a bunch of random stuff. Like, let's pretend there's celery and cottage cheese and olives and pickled this. Like, there's just a bunch of random stuff. So when I go out to eat, I order a lot of little different things because I
Mhm.
love multiple different experiences. And so I'm bringing that up just because, again, like going back to what Katie said of the mindfulness is start practicing mindfulness, being present just by yourself, get it away from sexuality. Food is one way I personally like to do that. Another thing, like I said, is touching, like just rubbing yourself. You can do the breath work. There's things called progressive muscle relaxation. I do love that one. Um, there's a lot of different examples out there of how to do mindfulness. So start there, and then can you bring that to another form of pleasure? It could be lots of different types of self-pleasure, one being masturbation. Start there, then bring it to partnered stuff. Because if you don't know how to do that on the basic level, I think it'd be a little challenging to do that with a partner.
Yeah. It's a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of overstimulation, right?
Yeah,
Like
you'd be overstimulated. So it'd be hard to stay connected to that prefrontal cortex. Like you're kind of consciously forcing yourself to do something you haven't learned how to do yet.
yeah.
So, all right, good advice. I love it. Anything else we want to go over about with anxiety?
I don't think so. I'm hoping that this will drive some questions and we can maybe have like spin-off episodes on particular questions because we did talk about a lot of things, but we didn't really go into depth into too many of the things. So if there are things that we have talked about in this episode that you would like for us to go into more depth, that we would be happy to. We need to know what those topics are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will see you all at the next episode. Thank you all for listening. Hope this episode was helpful to you. Bye. Have a good rest of your day. We are Dr. Molly Hart and Dr. Katie Schubert, and you've been listening to Sex on the Floor podcast. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions and want to get in contact with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Dr. Molly Hart and at Dr. Katie Schubert, on Facebook at Pelvic Balance PT and at Dr. Katie Schubert. And for more information about us on our websites, you can find us at pelvicbalancept.com and at drkatieschubert.com.